everyone, and welcome to the Press Break podcast. My name is Chelsea, and I'm here with Jamie and Tyler for, not any different for you, but we're filming a special morning edition of our podcast for good reason. Jamie's about to head out to Florida to go cover Iowa State because there's a huge week, I guess. Weekend. I don't know how you Americans think about Thanksgiving. There's a week of basketball coming up. It's not only Thanksgiving, so much basketball. Flow Hoop's about to be making their profitable week of the year.
Yeah.
Thoughts
yeah.
on that. But of course, so much basketball to cover this week. But before we get to that, we're going to actually recap some stuff from last weekend because, of course, as our very avid listeners and basketball fans will know, last weekend was a big weekend for two particular matchups in Los Angeles. We had USC versus Notre Dame and South Carolina versus UCLA, both in LA, both on different days. But Tyler was actually there in LA, boots on the ground. Forgot about the state of Oklahoma for a weekend and just headed out while I cold in Canada. And so those games actually, I wouldn't say, one of them was definitely an upset. I wouldn't say I was shocked by Notre Dame beating USC. That could have happened and I would have been okay either way, not shocked. But I think the biggest shock from the weekend was UCLA beating the former number 1 / national champions South Carolina, ending their 43-game winning streak, which they just achieved their last game. And so, there's so many thoughts to go on this whole weekend. There's so many big performances to talk about. But Tyler, just give us the recap of what it was like to be there. Maybe some highlights for you, having seen them in person. And then, of course, we'll all give our thoughts on those games because wild.
Yeah, no, both atmospheres were really cool for their own different reasons. USC, you had the celebrities out, Michael B. Jordan was there, Snoop Dogg was there in a custom Juju Watkins suit.
Yes, oh my God,
dope as hell. Obviously you had some legends in the building, Cheryl Miller was there, Candace Parker was there, some of the Sparks were there. There was a ton of WNBA people there in attendance, for both of these games, whether it be coaches, GMs. I know Tyler Marsh was there from the Sky, Kurt Miller from the Wings now, which is weird to say.
Weird to say Tyler Marsh from the Sky. That's a little weird to say too.
It's all new. There's so much movement. But no, I'll tell you. So USC really had this the celebrity part, and it was oh, that's so and so, and just kind of walking by, and that was cool. But UCLA's atmosphere. So I think it's important to preface this. Most of my when I travel to games, it has almost always been to a neutral site, whether it be a conference tournament or I've been to a Final Four before, things like that. So I haven't got to go and see home environments a ton. But UCLA, first off, Pauley Pavilion is a cathedral of college basketball, and you could kind of feel that when you walk in there. But they had one of the coolest collegiate atmospheres, and the thing that to kind of to show that was during the starting lineups, right? Almost every game I've been to, they just have a song playing in the background, right? Whether it's just whatever is most popular. UCLA lines the court with their band, and instead of playing a song over the speakers, they just have the drums going, and it was fire. It was cool. It was dope, and the UCLA chant goes crazy. And nobody told me about this.
I saw your tweet. I was I need a performance. Give us a performance.
Okay, let me see what I can. Hold on, let me see. It was they get on the camera, they get on the on this thing, and they do an 8 clap, and they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA, fight! And I was whoa, what's going on? Everyone was doing it in the whole. I'm surprised I remember that. I really got indoctrinated.
It made an impression.
Wow, that stuck with me. But no, the games were super dope. The atmospheres were great for different reasons. They were both were sold out crowd. It was dope. It really was, and I was very grateful to be there. But when it comes to the actual hoops itself, Chelsea, I don't have a place where I said this publicly, so I promise y'all are just gonna have to trust me with this. I actually thought Notre Dame and UCLA were gonna win both of these games going into it. And I guess I know. Y'all just have to trust me on that. I promise I wouldn't lie to y'all. But the thing is, the USCs have kind of had like their question marks going into this, and while I felt like the foundations right now and the certainties, I guess you could say, of Notre Dame and UCLA were just much stronger than the certainties and the ease of performance than the USCs that they went up against. And we could definitely dive into it. I mean, if we want to, I guess, start with kind of Notre Dame, USC. Like, first off, Hannah Hidalgo, bro. There's no argument, no discussion, no conversation that Hannah Hidalgo does not belong in. When you're talking about best player in the country, the top tier in the country, we know like in preseason All-American she was on the top 5, so it's not like she was like underrated, but like it has been so much Paige and.
But honestly, maybe she was like for that.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm really like, to me personally, she was already in like I think the top tier player was Paige, Juju, Hannah. Right. And like to me that felt like pretty clear. And like it's just one game. But like I feel like in general, like the consensus was that Hannah was at like the top of tier 2 and not in tier 1 with Paige and Juju. And I didn't agree with that going into it. And now there's no way you can say that coming out of it. And seeing her in person and just like the energy that she has on a basketball court is ridiculous. Whether it's just like I wrote about it afterwards with Ocasio. It's like the way that she just like does things that she doesn't have to do. For example, she has like the mindset and the heart and the effort of a glue player that you'd love to have on your team. And it's in the body of one of the most skilled players in the entire country. And that's a ridiculous combo that you don't see very often in star players, like in that way. You know, you could be a star in your role with your effort, but normally doesn't coincide with the skill of a unanimous All-American player.
It's honestly kind of like Paige to me, where like Paige does so many things so well. Like she can take over a game, but she's also a great facilitator. She has really great game knowledge and can recognize like when something needs to shift, like very much a coach's mindset. And that's what I see with Hannah. I feel like part of why Hannah ends up getting a little bit underrated is she is smaller, but that means that like her effort is even more necessary and makes an even bigger impact, and sometimes can help because she can literally like go under the radar. Like she can get into spots literally that other people
I'm
can't.
telling you. Like,
and
it was
crazy. My god,
it was crazy. Like seeing her on the defensive side specifically. I'll tell you the thing where like it really stood out the most to me, the amount of times where a USC guard would bring the ball up and Hannah would just like poke behind him. It didn't always result. Like, it resulted in some turnovers. At minimum, it resulted in some disruption, and she always got back in time to where it never became a problem, because that's not something that you had to do. That's not like her defensive assignment that she was going and doing this on and then like was behind the play. Like she was doing this as an extra thing because she easily could have just gotten back on defense and just like, all right, we're gonna run. Let's see what happens this possession. Instead, she just does that extra thing that she doesn't have to do. Like that is like from a basketball perspective, just in general, that is not normal for someone to go and mess with the ball handler and then get back on their person and have no repercussions. Like there's a reason why people don't do that, because usually it's taken advantage of, and USC just wasn't able to do that. And I don't think that was a USC problem as much as just a showing of Hannah Hidalgo and the effort that she has.
I feel like she must have been good in track. Like I can't find anything on it, but like she had to be good. It's like she's so fast. Well, and like I tweeted this, I'm like, Hannah Hidalgo is so much fun to watch as a neutral observer, because if she were playing against my team, like she isn't over the top, but she has like the little bit of swagger where like, you know, it's just genuine confidence. Like she's not even showboating. She's just fiery. And I'm like, if she was out there smiling the way she does, terrorizing my team, I would be sick. I would be sick to my stomach.
Yeah, no, I'm so with you. But yeah, I mean, what she did, and then the combo with Olivia Miles, if there was any questions, check those boxes. That's answered. Olivia Miles was fantastic. And like I said, in front of a couple of executives and coaches, including both head coaches for the Sparks and Sky in the building, looked really, really good. The 3-point shooting was there for Olivia. I mean, we already know like what she does when it comes to the playmaking aspect and that, and pretty much every other sense on the offensive side of the ball. Really, the shooting has been the only kind of real question. And man, it looked fantastic in this game, and she did it in different ways. Sonia Citron as well is another like the defense that she has. There's going to be a team. I would be very, very interested in seeing. I could absolutely, like, genuinely speaking, I think at this point, like she's kind of been like, as she's really kind of gotten rolling this season. There might be a team that makes her a lottery pick, like genuinely. Like I don't think that's like there's like a Mystics team that could use some shooting and some size, you know, some defense as well. Like that makes sense. Or the Indiana Fever potentially, like that makes sense to me a lot as well. Like as a great pick, kind of just putting some defense alongside Caitlin. Like I'm really intrigued to see where she ends up in the draft. And obviously we're so far away from that right now. But like just seeing like a game like this against a star player like Juju on a stage like this is one that people aren't going to soon forget. And so when it comes to that time, like there's going to be some very interesting things to talk about with that.
I also have to say for Notre Dame, like I've obviously talked about how, you know, they have such a short bench and that's difficult, but to go out the way they did, to have truly, you know, a 6 player rotation. They threw Emma Rish in there for a hot second, but like 6 player rotation. And that's what you do, like the pace that they play. That's absurd. Their conditioning so like disgustingly good. And when they get people healthy,
there's more pieces to add to this.
That's the thing, is like there's like huge
like legitimate pieces.
But then I mean, I just look at like, you know, you talk about the statistics, you talk about how there's so many things that go really underrated, and like Liatu King to be able to, you only take 4 shots, you make 2 of them, but then you have 11 rebounds, you have 4 steals, like that's wild. You know, that's just doing what needs to be done. And they defended Kiki so well. Like there's something to be said for USC still figuring out how to like integrate her, and that's absolutely true. But like, you don't gotta work that hard to get her going. And so, you know, it's really impressive to defend her the way they did, to make it that difficult. Like they really said, Juju, you're going to have to do this game yourself. Like, you're going to have to get this win yourself. And that's just, like, that's not a fair thing to do against a team like Notre Dame. But, like, they took all the other good options out. They made it really, really tough.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And Kate Koval as well to shout her out. Because, like truly, like, the weaknesses, quote unquote, coming into this season for Notre Dame aren't looking real weak. Like they're not looking real weak. So
truly, the weakness is depth, and like if you get into foul trouble, things like that, or if you have any more injuries, you're in a bad spot right now. But like you can only do so much about that. Like and so obviously they're working on getting their people healthy and things like that. But like what they're doing to mitigate that in the meantime has been super impressive.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm totally with you.
Yeah, and I think that game for me wasn't too much, again, like I said, of a shock, because I think people who like know hoops, you know,
ball knower,
know that like we were all saying, like Notre Dame, we knew, especially with Olivia Miles coming back in this season, that they were going to be like a huge threat, and maybe like people who haven't been tapped in for the past like year, or like other than the past year beyond that, didn't know. So like I was like, oh yeah, like especially with USC looking a little shaky to start and all of that, I was like, oh, they're about to come in and absolutely make some noise. Because I do think also, like we were saying, not that they're cocky or anything, but I do think that Notre Dame knows how to like play for a moment. Like they had a great run in the tournament. They had a great game in Paris last year. Like they just like playing for a moment and proving themselves, because again, they're a little bit, I wouldn't say underrated, but like maybe not as.
But I bet they think so. To be honest with you, like I really
at the
don't.
very least under the radar, like for who's talked about the most.
Exactly, especially in like media now, because you have like the Juju, you have Paige, you have South Carolina, you have like, you know, all of.
They weren't listed as like a contender. Like when you thought of like the contenders, it kind of stopped at 5, and they were at 6. You know, like when people were kind of having the preseason dialogue. So
and I mean, Neil is such a great coach.
Oh my God!
First of all, she can dress. Like, let's start there.
She had that,
because I saw her at the airport leaving the Final Four the year before last, and I like walked by and I just kind of looked. I'm like, wow, you look like that in real life too. Wow.
And that's at the airport. Like I roll up to the airport in like my nastiest clothes. Like
no, it was incredible. I was just like, huh. good for you. But like beyond that, way beyond that, like again, to be able to scheme for a team like Southern Cal, like to be able to scheme for all that, to deal with the lack of depth that they have, but to maximize what you do have. Like people talk about, well, how are Hannah and Olivia gonna play off each other? Really well. Yeah. Hello?
Yeah. If there was any question, which I kind of thought, honestly, like that was a little bit overblown going into it. Like I feel like I don't think you have like two guards that are that talented where you can't figure out in a way like it just felt. I just wasn't never like. I understood.
So many teams run 2 point guard schemes. Yeah, like that's a thing that if you have the talent to do it, is not difficult to do.
No, that's why it was just like it never. And then especially now with Olivia's shooting continuing to be on the uptick and be able to
5 from 3
to play off ball like in that way. Like I never at any point did I feel like, oh, one of these players is out of the loop right now. Like it just never happened.
To me, it's like comparing that to like, oh, like you can't have a team with like Chelsea Gray and Jackie Young because they aren't gonna like. I'm like, no. Like,
yeah,
obviously, as we know, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
So it's kind of 2 point.
Well, when you have point guards that are elite scorers, it's good to have multiple of them because then they don't always have to have the ball in their hand. They're not the one having to make every single decision. Like they both can play like the true distributor, true point guard position, but I think that like the potential for their scoring and their efficiency increases significantly for having each other. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
What a hot take. They're better with each other.
But players play well together. Wow, shocking. Sunday, I think I wouldn't like. You said you thought that UCLA was going to win, Tyler.
Yes,
I was a little bit more shocked, and I think I'll explain why. I do think I agree with the fact that like the foundation of South Carolina isn't as strong as it has been in previous years, and before the people come at me like.
It's true. That's just the facts. Like that's just realistic.
You lose Camilla,
the bar is so high. Like
the bar is so high. You lose your player that you've been playing through. You have to find out, basically create a whole new system, all that stuff. But at the same time,
you want to talk about underrated has probably been underrated for the impact that she had.
Yes, exactly. That's a big one. And I do think that like. Where was it? Oh, yeah. Like, my thing with South Carolina is, like, yes, they're going through changes, yes, but you also have Dawn Staley, and you also still have so many talented players that, like, even when they have these, like, interesting starts where they don't exactly, like, because it's kind of a pattern where sometimes they don't really play to their full strength.
They've had slow starts. I mean, we saw it against Clemson this season. Like,
just, like, not really, like, like playing to their level. But then in the second half, I don't know what Dawn does in the halftime locker room, but something happens. And then they come out and they absolutely dominate in the second half, which I feel like is like their kind of normal game flow maybe at this point. But then like you're watching Sunday and you're like, okay, like they still like, I'm not worried. They still have time. Not that I like didn't want UCLA. I was neutral, but like then you just didn't see that in the second half. And then UCLA just took full advantage of that, which I'm sure they were absolutely prepared to and like wanting to do. And then you also have a lot more like older players on UCLA too, who like have seen the dominance of South Carolina and like are like, okay, like we know we can beat them, like in our, like confidence and whatever.
No, they fully were thinking like they came into this game thinking that they were going to win. Like Corey Close made that a very big point, like where it was like, I have so much respect for South Carolina. Yeah. However, we came in knowing what type of team we are too.
Exactly.
Like, and that was a very big point that she made in the post game.
And another very underrated team that has so much talent that like Kiki Rice, like I don't get why people aren't giving her the hype that she deserves, because like definitely should be up there.
I feel like part of it has to be that she was out to start the year.
I think so. Yeah, I just think she just hasn't gotten fully like rolling yet. To be honest, I think this was her first game off a minutes restriction, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
And like they also haven't had like a big game like this yet. Like we're now getting into the point where these teams are starting to face these like bigger teams, and you have these big ranked matchups. Whereas like for the first couple weeks, they were, the games weren't as marquee.
Because like they had Paris, but like you said, like Kiki wasn't playing yet there. Yeah.
So it was different. So I do think that now, especially with these big tournaments coming up, like now we're going to start seeing what these teams are fully capable of. now we're kind of in a flow where like people are coming back. But yeah, I was so impressed with UCLA, the ability to just be able to know that South Carolina can come back in the second half and like not let them. They were able to get like their players frustrated. Dawn had to kind of like change up her normal game flow. Like I think they just frustrated them and kind of caught them off guard maybe. And I'm not going to say that they weren't prepared, because obviously I know Dawn Staley's like one of the best coaches in the sport of basketball, you know, no matter what we're talking about. So I'm not saying they weren't prepared, but I just think that they were just like unable to recover from the first half and then just got frustrated. And that happens. I do think that sometimes people hold this program to like a high standard and say like, oh, they can never lose. They never do anything wrong. So I think maybe this loss was somewhat important to that journey. Like maybe it'll kind of help them or help, I guess, fans kind of contextualize how good the rest of the landscape is. Because I do think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like South Carolina, they're just going to go undefeated again and win. Yeah. So anyway, very curious what your thoughts are on this one. Well, I'll go to Jamie first. I don't know, like if you've been able to like watch most of the like the game, or you know, we all know that, you know, you're busy. And it's hard to find like the repeats and stuff and all that. But yeah, just like, what are your thoughts on that? Were you shocked? I know Tyler's gonna say he wasn't, but you know.
I was calling a game for most of this matchup. Iowa State was hosting Drake, and at one point during a timeout, my broadcast partner, his name's Noah, he looks at me and he says, South Carolina down to UCLA, 43-22. And I said, I'd hate to be the team that plays them next.
Them next? Yep, I was just about to say that. About to say that.
You know, that's something. But no, I mean, obviously they're a tremendous team. I haven't been able to go back and watch it. It'll be something that I probably do. I don't think I can download it and watch it on the plane today, but I will watch it.
They don't give you in-flight Wi-Fi?
But it's kind of wild. Like, I know that there's a lot of discussion, I'll say. There's a lot of discourse. And I mean, I will say, like, I follow a lot of South Carolina fans. I'm friendly with a lot of South Carolina fans because back when I really got into the women's basketball landscape on a national scale, that was mostly the population of people that were talking hoops. And so, like, I feel like I have a pretty good look at, like, a lot of the rational people in the fan base. And so I see the crazy takes mostly for them being pushed back on. And, like, I'm seeing some crazy takes on Malaysia. I'm seeing some crazy takes on just the rotations in general. And I think that you just got to understand that Dawn Staley has a standard. Dawn Staley has a vision. And if you're not playing within that vision, if you're not playing up to that standard, minutes are earned, not given. Opportunities are earned, not given. And sometimes you need a wake-up call. And, I mean, especially you look at this team, Malaysia, you've got Tessa Johnson. This is their first loss at South Carolina. And
which is crazy, but it's crazy to frame it like that.
And so you're gonna see them respond, but that's tough. And in a game that it seems like they really just struggled to get going offensively, that's been kind of an issue for South Carolina at times. And especially like you talk about, Tyler, you've talked a lot about wanting to see like how their offense runs, what the scheme is, and thinking, okay, is this more of a perimeter heavy team? They go 8 for 12 from 3, you know, and they still lose pretty bad. Like, it's just there's a lot going on there. And really what shocked me was when I was told down 43-22, I checked the box score and Lauren Betts had 2 points. I was like, excuse me?
That is what I need. That's what I'm ready to get into.
Excuse me? And she had 3 assists at the time.
Yep.
only had a couple field goal attempts. So like that's what I am ready to see and look at and say, okay, how the heck did this happen? Yes. But like that's what I give UCLA a lot of credit for scheming for understanding that, okay, this is going to be an emphasis for them. They do have the athletes to guard inside for sure, but once you move the ball enough, like you can't commit enough resources to guard everyone. And then, I mean, shout out to, I'll say friend of the program because he's a friend of most of ours, but Mark Schindler, I know that he had done a pod kind of previewing some potential breakout players for this year, and one of the players they highlighted was Alina Arnasalo. And so, obviously, that is a huge boost to have your freshman pop out with 13 points on 60% shooting, like to have 3 rebounds, 4 assists, you only have 1 turnover. Like that's a composed, that's a mature stat line. Yes. And so I have a lot of questions that I'm excited to get answered by watching the game a little bit, but definitely like South Carolina is going to be good, obviously. And also, you only learn by doing. I said this a lot about Iowa State last year because they were a very young and inexperienced team. And you have to learn by doing. Like, you only learn how to adjust after a loss by losing. And it's going to happen at some point. To my knowledge, there is no one that has gone through their entire college career undefeated. Like, it just doesn't happen. And so you have to do it at some point. And frankly, I said this on Twitter too, if you believe that your team and your coach have the ability to improve, then you want them to play against elite competition and you want them to some degree fail at some point. If you think that your team is coming out and playing their best basketball game 1, then like I don't know what to say to you because that's asinine. Like, you should not be hoping for that. And so, great, you had a loss. It highlights things that you need to get better at. You have a coach that can do that. You have a team that's capable of improving and adjusting. So, like, you take that as the gift that it is to help you reach your full potential.
Yeah. And one thing that also, like, annoyed me through all this discourse, and I know, like, I don't know, like, people on the internet are going to have wild takes, like, whatever. But I do think that, but the thing that was really annoying me is that there was so much criticism over, like, benching and all of this stuff. And I'm like, if this was a male coach, because there are plenty of male coaches that we know that do the same thing, that are tough on their players, that have a high standard, like you say, and aren't going to, like, coddle these players. If that was a male coach, nobody would be talking like this. And the takes that I was seeing about, like, people need to transfer, people need to do that. I'm like, first of all, y'all need to, like, trust a process. Like, the point of these players committing to these schools is that they want to be pushed. And, like, yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be emotional. But at the end of the day, like, these coaches aren't trying to be malicious. They're just trying to, 1, win, and 2, make you better. So, I don't know. I do think that, like, maybe you need to be broken. Not that you need to be broken down to be lifted up, but, like, you can't appreciate the, like, highs until you really feel the lows. Like, I truly believe that in anything in life. But, like, yeah, for me, I was like, there's such a double standard happening right now where, like, you're ready to just flip on this whole process as soon as they lose. And I know that, like, they're not used to losing. So, like, it maybe got you in a little bit of a tizzle when you did lose. But, like, I don't know. I was just wild. And we need to all just, like, take a deep breath and realize that, like, they'll be okay. And they're gonna win, and the next games against Iowa State because that's rough on Jamie. But it's just like it's gonna be fine. Like, go touch some grass.
So here's where when it comes to my ladies are only playing 3 minutes, because during the game I'm like, y'all need some offense. Y'all got offense on the bench right now, and obviously, like, I don't know the reasoning behind the bench. So I'm not like so here's where I'm at with it. I think 2 things can be true because I have talked about this before this game. the leash that has been on Malaysia Fulwiley when it comes to being able to kind of grow through mistakes has been very short in her career so far. And we've seen her get pulled before on a game. I think it was North Carolina last season where we saw that. In general, I feel like I would have liked, not even necessarily just in this game, but just in general with Malaysia, I think there has been maybe some opportunities to allow her to play through some more stuff. And we've heard Dawn talk about kind of the push and pull of Malaysia, just because she is such a dynamic player, but that can also kind of get rolling too much at times. Yeah. So on that end, I'm very intrigued as to what happened. Yeah. Because that's weird to only play 3 minutes. Like there's obviously, like that doesn't just like happen. Like you're not choosing to just like you're not, from a basketball perspective, especially when you need offense, you're not just not playing Malaysia Fulwiley. So like there's something more here. So on that end, I am like, I would like to see a difference in that in general. However, I think it's pretty safe to say Dawn Staley has earned some benefit of the doubt.
Exactly.
And that's where I'm at with this. So I'm like, I don't really have any conclusion to gain from this game. And when it comes to rotations or to transfer or anything, I don't have a conclusion on that. But it is in line with some of my worries that were already happening with Malaysia and figuring out how to maximize her growth, and especially in games where like you are winning a ton, like kind of just like I would love just to see Malaysia just go like in previous games, just to go play 30 minutes and just like figure it out, and kind of get that time. So I don't have any conclusions on that, but I do think there is a little bit of both sides here, and I guess my conclusion, or like as they say, like the truth lies in the middle. My conclusion somewhere in there, and like I don't have one yet, but it's forming. It's kind of it's formulating right now.
And like one thing about Dawn is that like she's always going, like her big thing is that she likes coaching college players because she's like molding them. And that's the big thing about college, like as a thing, like you're preparing these people to be adults and not just basketball players. And I think that's such a huge thing on the women's side, especially because they have longer college careers. And so for me, like I would not be surprised if Dawn, like maybe something happened, I don't know, but like it's not going to shock me if Dawn's like, you just need to sit out today for whatever reason, that something, whatever maybe happened. And like, she's just, maybe it's a lesson. Like, I don't know. Like, and I understand that people are going to have like, oh, but like winning is more important, blah, blah, blah. But like, I feel like in Dawn's mind, it's going to be like, you know what, this just needs to happen.
Especially a non-conference game, like if there's a lesson that needs to be learned, it's better to do it there than like in the postseason. And also, I think that the thing that people really hate to acknowledge that they don't know the whole story just by like watching and being a fan. And it's something that has driven me beyond nuts as someone who sometimes does know the full story and sees the takes from people who don't. And it gets tough. And so I think that there just needs to be better acknowledgement that what's seen on the outside is, and even like what, if you hear something like, that's not necessarily the whole truth either. And I mean, players go to a school because they trust how they're going to be handled. And if after this season there are transfers, then they decided they wanted something different, but even then it isn't like an indictment of a program. And either way, it's just crazy to be saying that after one game, after one situation where like, I do think that Malaysia Fulwiley has such absurd, tremendous potential, but there is something to be said for knowing when to rein it in, knowing when to maybe do less than what you're capable of for being a little bit safer. And again, this isn't about this specific game because I haven't been able to watch it yet, but like for someone that has had a shorter leash, like I do think that there is the benefit to being able to play through things, but I mean, there's also practices every day that we aren't a part of, and so you never know what's happening there, and so it drives me nuts to see like all these crazy hot takes based off of one like minuscule situation, and it gets, I mean, heck, maybe you say, wow, this is a game that we are not playing well. This is not looking good. We're going to play a lot of the other reserves more and give them the opportunity to figure it out. Like, there's just, I mean, I just don't know that we'll ever know the full story, but I don't think it really matters that much, to be honest, unless it's a pattern.
And, like, people don't understand these players are literally, like, 18, 19, 20. Like, they're little in the grand scheme of things. Like, I'm not trying to call them children because they're obviously adults, but, like, they are young in their, like, adulthood and their playing careers and, like, acting like professionals and, like, all that stuff. Like, there are certain things that are going to come into play and, like, lessons that need to be learned. And not saying they need to be punished for things, but, like, sometimes, like we were all saying, you need to lose to learn things. I don't know.
Yeah, South Carolina's going to have plenty to learn from this game, too.
Exactly. And I'm sure they will and take that as, like, a good learning.
Yeah, and I do want to know. You kind of mentioned it, Jamie, the Lauren Betts, though. Yeah. Here right now. I went into this game thinking that South Carolina was going to lose because of Lauren Betts. Now, I thought that was going to be because Lauren Betts has 25 points, and South Carolina just can't find a way to really, like, stop that in that way. Like, I didn't know if they had the facilities to do that. Yeah. They did a great job on Lauren. Like Don was happy with the performance. Like Corey Closegate, like, was like, look, Lauren Betts is the start and end of every scouting report against UCLA. Mm-hmm. However, and she's only listed with 4 assists, right? Which is already solid, like for like what she does. Like that is a solid number. She is responsible for so many more buckets than 4. The gravity that Lauren Betts brought to this game. And Corey Closegate talked about, like, whether it be other players, like them crashing down on Lauren, and then other players are getting open based on that. Like, the attention, understandably, that South Carolina put on Lauren Betts, they were like, the others are going to have to beat us. And they did. Like, London Jones going 5 for 5 from 3. Like, True. Like that is, like, they did. And, like, so UCLA, this is what I came away so impressed by UCLA. Like, so it's interesting because had this had the same score, right? But Lauren Betts drops 30 instead. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just a hypothetical. I would have came away with this game probably really impressed with Lauren Betts. Instead, I come away from this game really impressed with UCLA and seeing how they could against the number 1 team in the nation, the streak, everything that goes into playing South Carolina. Yep. The team played so well, and the others won this game and did it in dominant fashion. Where Lauren Betts only has 8 shot attempts. Like that's not like kind of what we come to expect from UCLA. Like usually if UCLA has a great performance, it's been like last season, it was with Kiki and Lauren Betts, you know, like doing it. So to see them win this game in this fashion where Lauren Betts has a really good game, and especially on the defensive end, because South Carolina cannot get into the paint to save their life, which also kind of goes back to not having the dominant big that we're used to and having more face-up style bigs as opposed to back to the basket. But this game for UCLA was such a statement in a way. Like, I think they had the biggest statement of the weekend where it was just like, yeah, we have our really, really good players, but they're also so deep. And I don't know how many games South Carolina has played where it feels like there might be more depth on the other team. It's been a long time for that. Yeah. And this game felt like that, where there was players coming off the bench for UCLA where they would check in with South Carolina players. And I never felt, because usually they're like South Carolina might start slow and they bring in their bench and then they just kind of outmatch you throughout the game because their rotation is 10 while yours is 7. And that never happened in this game against UCLA with the depth that they have. So I came away from this game so impressed with UCLA, the team, and also impressed with Lauren Betts, the player, like just like being one of the best players in the country. But like I said, the style that they won this game in, like they're at number 1 in the AP poll now. Mm-hmm. Like I think you can make a case. I think there's 3 teams you can genuinely make a case for right now. Mm-hmm. UCLA, but they had the best win in the country so far this season with this game. So I understand. Like I'm totally cool with them being number 1. I think you make a case for Notre Dame pretty easily as well. I think UConn obviously is up there as well. Like we came away from this weekend. My biggest takeaway was that we came away from this weekend with more questions than answers, and that is so much fun. Like that is exactly like what I had kind of hoped for this weekend. Like I obviously didn't have a rooting interest in anything, but I just wanted it to leave with dialogue. And boy, did we get dialogue. We got plenty of dialogue. Yeah. So I loved it.
especially going into this week where there will be so many like of these good matches.
There's so many conclusions that we're making now that just might not be true.
Answering some questions.
No, it's true. Like we've kind of gotten through like the exposition of the season now. Like I had talked about it felt like this weekend felt like the cliffhanger at like the end of season 1 of this college basketball season.
Yeah.
And now we're going into season 2. And and the opener is Thanksgiving week, which is always like provides some great matchups, and there's several over the course of this week. We're really about like we've been introduced to our teams. We know we have an idea of what these teams are looking like. We got the start of the arc, and now like we're really getting into like
we're getting into character development.
We just finally get challenges. Like there was I know there was a lot of discourse over like the past week or two about like difficulty of scheduling and things like that. There's something to be said for having tough matchups early, but at the very least, like you have to have challenges in the non-conference at some point, like for obvious reasons. I mean, you saw. I'll acknowledge the elephant in the room. Iowa State lost last week, as we talked about before we started recording. We ain't even gonna get like too far into it because I'll sit here and talk for a half hour about how good women's basketball is in the state of Iowa as a whole. But like losing to Drake or UNI is just a thing that happens. Like they are very, very good. They are extremely underrated for especially the star power. Literally last week, I had notes if we had gotten to it on like some of the most underrated teams and players in the country, and I had both Katie Dinnebier and Maya McDermott on my list.
They proved you right.
Yeah. And let me tell you, there's years where it's just for like a complete lack of ability to defend. The shots they were hitting, crazy. Let me not even get started. But like that happens, but then you have LSU go and somehow just sneak one out against Washington in a game that they were not in control of at all for 1 second. Like they got very fortunate. They got extremely fortunate, and I won't really go much further than that on how that fortune occurred. I'm not gonna get into the debate there, but Washington was completely in control of that game, and LSU has been one of the ones that receives a lot of, I think, rightful critique for not scheduling anyone in non-con, and you see why that can be impactful. You see K-State go and lose to Duke. Duke's good. But you need to be challenged. And again, to the exact same point of South Carolina, if you think that your team has room to improve, which hopefully everyone does, then you should be grateful for that opportunity and say the only way that this is a failure is if you don't learn from it. That's all. That's kind of like my attitude is a loss is not a failure. A failure is to not improve and to work on the things that led to the loss. And so that's a golden opportunity, but there's going to be a lot of golden opportunities this week because there's some crazy
everybody go sign up to Flow Hoops.
You charge $30 a month for horrific audio, for not having a score bug most of the time, and for basically guaranteed stream interruptions in every game. Every game. I had someone who used to work there slide into my DMs after I was complaining about it, and they're like, yeah, no, it's a disaster. Like, they basically, they just outbid anyone else that might try to, and so, like, the crew and the production side is just, like, cobbled together from, whatever random people that they can pay the least so that they have the best margin. Like,
but also, they charge $30 a month because they're only making that for 1 week a year.
But they do have the Big East. They have the rights to the Big East all season.
Yeah.
So the UConn people are going to Flow Hoops.
I guess. Yeah. Because I tell you what, I'm not. I'm canceling it after this month. I got it so that I could watch UConn, like, to start out the year and stuff like that, and watch Creighton to start out the year, and knowing that I would want it for this week. But after that, no, it's so bad. bad. It's been so long that they've been doing this. Like,
can't keep getting away with it.
They can't keep getting away with it. Oh Lord.
So
I will take this down the second that they hit me up to try to pay me to call one of the tournaments they play. I will say that.
Hey, look. Hey, man. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
I have principles, but I got bills.
Yes.
I'm right there with you. I'm
gonna get that tattooed on my face.
I'll change it from the
inside. Yeah, you gotta go change it from the inside. Oh man, I think. Okay, yeah, we've been yapping for so long, but there is such an exciting week of hoops, whether you have flow hoops or not. But there's so many tournaments happening in so many places in the world. Also, nobody invited me to American Thanksgiving, and I'm so upset because how dare you? Like, I'm just expected to sit up here, watch you all do your thing, and not eat turkey.
I thought it was understood you would be welcome in Florida.
True.
I'm sorry.
If it wasn't $7 million to go to Florida from Canada right now, I would be there. These
Next
two
year.
flying all over the place, and I'm stuck in Canada because I can't afford anything. But anyway, that's a whole other thing that we can get into politics. But give me your, like, what are you excited for this week? I know there's so many matchups. Highlight one, you can just give a general. But Tyler, give me the.
Can I be a homer for the first time? I think on this show.
Because
Oklahoma Duke
game.
Oklahoma Duke. This will be like the first like genuine test for Oklahoma this season. Look, I'm gonna tell you right now, this Oklahoma team looks different. Like I have seen every game under Jenny Baranczyk since she has come to Oklahoma. This looks different. And I'm very excited to see them have like a real genuine test against a very, very solid Duke team that also, honestly, like this is like, they beat Kansas State, which is a great win. But like we're still kind of like I'm very intrigued by Duke. Like I still don't know, exactly where we're at with Duke, and like I still haven't like really kind of come to a conclusion. I feel like so like even from the Duke side, like outside of just Oklahoma as well, like this game feels like one where like statements can be made. Like if Oklahoma, because Oklahoma's won like every game by like 20 plus points, 30 plus points. So like if they go and do that again against a team that's currently 13 in the nation, we're like, okay, what do we got going on here? And I'm kind of waiting because like I see like Oklahoma at 8, I feel like is a little too low, to be honest, in the rankings. I would have them at the lowest I would have them at is 7.
Okay. Right
now. I would personally have them above LSU from what we've seen so far. But like this is the game where it's like, okay, like prove it, Like I'm confident in what we've seen from OU so far. But like this is like 100% like you have to go do it against top competition. And this is what this week is really all about. Honestly, it feels like every year is that we get these great matches. Like tomorrow alone, you have I think 3-4 matchups between ranked teams, and so like we're just gonna find out a lot. So like on a personal level, having not seen Oklahoma against a genuinely like good opponent so far, no disrespect, but like it is what it is. Like we just haven't seen that yet, and so as much as I've been impressed and liked what I've seen and like the foundation that has been set for Oklahoma, you still gotta go do it against other top ranked teams, and that's what we get tomorrow in this game. So. On an individual level, I'm stoked just to find out like what exactly is Oklahoma working with this season.
Yeah, and I'll be cheering for Toby, so I'm the
Ops. I'm so sorry.
Go Canada. Jamie, what about you?
Yeah, so I mean, on the one hand, I obviously have a really exciting slate to call. Iowa State taking on South Carolina on Thanksgiving on Fox, like middle of the day. Like that is such a crazy cool opportunity. I'm really excited for our program, for the team to be able to get that kind of exposure, to have that sort of opportunity. That's something that not very many people get to do. Should be a really good showcase just for the program, for the university. Huge opportunity. We played South Carolina 4 years ago in Ames in an SEC Big 12 challenge. And Noah, my broadcast partner, was updating his notes, and he pulled up his notes from that game, and he's like, yeah, they've lost 8 games since then.
My God, that's such crazy perspective to put it in.
Yeah. So that's crazy. It's been like since 2019 since they've lost back-to-back games. So, you're trying to do something crazy either way. But truly, I mean, it is one of those where to be the best, you have to play the best. Like, you need good measuring sticks. And so I'm excited to see what they can do there. And then I've talked a lot about Middle Tennessee as well, and how much I love the kind of play they have, how much I love their posts and Anastasia Boldareva. And so I'm really excited to be able to play both of those teams, and especially to have that sort of postseason format where you have a day off and then play again. So that's really cool. But then outside of that, there's such great matchups, like we said. The two that I think I'm most interested in as far as ranked matchups would be UConn playing Ole Miss, actually having some decent competition for UConn, just because, there's still a lot of questions there, I think, as far as their depth, as far as their interior play. And so not that Ole Miss has like a super dominant post player, but it's just going to be more of an overall challenge. And then Notre Dame, TCU, Notre Dame, I just want to see more of them. And then TCU, I think, has some questions of their own for sure. And so really interested to see how that goes, how Notre Dame does against like a very large interior player. That's definitely going to be a new challenge. And then my pick for a unranked matchup is Auburn and Northern Iowa. Obviously, again, having just seen a crazy performance from Northern Iowa, they are a tremendous team. And we've talked a lot about Auburn and how they are rounding into tremendous form. I think that Northern Iowa will probably have some issues with Deanna Gaston. That's someone who is going to be probably a matchup issue. And then that's not even getting into Talia Scott. But Maya McDermott is a matchup nightmare on her own. So I think there's going to be some offense in that game.
I'll be there.
That's gonna be a really fun one. So a lot of really, really great games to watch. Like, it's gonna be hard to have all my like work commitments and busy fun stuff, but also like sitting there and trying to follow all these games. But I'm up for the challenge. I will take that any day.
Yeah. Oh man, it's gonna be so exciting. Definitely, I'll be watching Duke for sure because Toby. I'm really excited for Iowa State versus South Carolina, just because that's like a great ranked team, and you've seen like both. Like, it's just a great matchup. And then also, like you were mentioning, UConn finally getting some like very strong competition and like putting this like very, in theory, strong team against, excuse me, like some real competition. I'm so excited to see Paige like actually have to like play to her full like potential, like actually have to be challenged. And it's just like, again, like one of my, obviously Paige is like one of everybody's favorite players to watch, but like just seeing how smart she is and like watching her play healthy is like, it's a gift that we are being given. Hopefully some of these games will be available for me to watch. That's the hope, but I'll be here eating no turkey, freezing my butt off. And
you're not missing out on much on turkey, but
yeah, turkey ain't that good.
I already had my Thanksgiving, but it's just like
turkey ain't that good anyways.
I get FOMO.
We're a ham fam.
Yeah, I love ham. I'm gonna roll up to.
I made a ham for Friendsgiving for the first time. It turned out pretty fire.
So good. I have such a good ham recipe that I can share to you guys after. But anyways, we yapping. But yeah, we will have all of the fun stuff from this weekend next week. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you.
Gobble gobble.
Gobble gobble. I'll be here just living another week. The second time today.
Do we need to FaceTime you in somewhere? Because I feel like you're a little down in the dumps, pal. We got to pick you up.
I have a little bit of FOMO because I'm hearing about all these games, and every day I'm like, ooh, which ones are going to be available? And then none of them are. So then I have to go back on the highlights, and I want a live game atmosphere. But anyway, we'll get that. I do think some of these ranked matchups, once we get into like these big things this week, might be on the TV, so it's fine. Everybody send those good
fingers crossed.
But we'll check back in with you all next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the hoops. Enjoy giving Flow Hoops their $30, and we will see you next time.